All right.
All right, guys. Welcome. Thank you guys for joining us today on this Saturday, wherever you're joining us from, live and on the recording. Thank you guys so much for taking the time today. We are extremely excited. Oh, I don't have my camera on, but I don't know where the button is. But anyways, welcome, guys. We're super excited today. We've got Brian Shuster, creator, CEO of the Uthervesre, and we've got Peter Gander, the CEO, creator of the Nexus Ecosystem. We've got a huge day today, and we were just discussing pre-call about Web3 and what the big companies are doing in the background and the foreground. And we're excited today to talk about what's exciting going on in the Metaverse, more specifically with the Uthervesre. And welcome, Brian. Welcome, Peter. Thanks. Peter, if you want to kick it off for us, and then we'll get this thing rocking. Welcome, everybody.
I will.
Thanks,
So you guys know that my belief system is that the Metaverse is the core, the center of Web3, that every single aspect of Web3, even though, cryptocurrency can, do okay on its own, and NFTs and all these can do okay, but for them to reach their full potential, it must be the development of, and especially for Web3, right? An interactive, immersive web experience must be through the Metaverse. And I think I've shared before that my experience with the Metaverse before I met Brian Shuster was, this thing sucks, right? Decentraland, sandbox, didn't understand where it could ever go or why anybody would ever want to use it. Was introduced to Brian and Uthervesre, and once looking at the technology and then having conversations with him about what he's seen, by the way, guys, for nearly 20 years, right? We're not talking about somebody who just heard that, Facebook was changing their name to Meta and said, hey, I think I'll go ahead and get into the Metaverse. He's looked at this thing for the longest period of time, just about anybody on the planet, and said, look, this is the way things are going to go. I just think he was a little early. Right? He might be thinking
story
that
of my
too,
life.
But the time is here now. And there's one thing that I've learned in my life is nothing beats experience, right? Nothing. You could be the smartest person in the world, 150 IQ, 180 IQ, but somebody with experience can outbeat you and outdo you any day of the week. And there is no team, there is no group of people on this planet that have more experience in not just the technology side, but the functionality, how to make it work, how to build community in the Metaverse, right? Successfully doing that than the Uthervesre team with Brian Shuster leading it and moving it forward. So we have this tremendous opportunity, guys, where we are working with what I believe is going to be the largest Metaverse project on the planet. And how big is Metaverse going to be? Estimations of 5 to 13 trillion. But I think if you take tokenization and all the assets and everything through it, it's going to be much bigger than that. They're talking about 3 to 5 billion people utilizing the Metaverse. And when you look at those numbers, you can look at the number of people who shop on Amazon, and just say, well, that's worth $1 trillion, right? What could be the value of something that has 3 to 5 billion users touching it on a daily basis for all kinds of stuff that they need? So I believe this is a tremendous opportunity, gives us the ability to be on the forefront of Web3, to work with it. The relationship that we have with Brian is a special relationship as far as, working together. And so there'll be huge opportunities for Nexus and for Blockchain Alliance for us to, be first movers in this space. And right now, the second trunk is coming out. So some of us already own Gen 1 trunks. I'm excited that they've been improved since they were released, because now they're the bottom tier apartments you won't get. So you're going to get better apartments. You're going to get more rare and more limited edition stuff. All that stuff has been enhanced. So now we're on to the Gen 2 trunks. And Brian called me up because, Peter, I have an idea of what I want to do with these trunks. And I'm like, okay, what's the idea? And he said, I'm going to make it where they're 0.3 ETH. And then when you open your trunk, when that's ready, it's going to give you back your 0.3 ETH. And at first I thought, well, I think Brian's lost his mind, but that is what we have decided to do. And it's actually brilliant, right? It's a genius move to make it forward, because at the end of the day, it's not about necessarily the revenue off of the 0.3 for the trunk. It's about the people. It's about community. It's about users and getting, the whole Utherverse, system moving forward, which, by the way, guys, we're not that far away from closed beta, right? September 26th, things are going to take off. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brian, and he can run you through whatever it is that he'd like to tell you about it. I'm just excited. I am a Gen 1 trunk holder. I don't remember how many I have, because I've been buying them here quite recently, but probably 7 to 10 of them I have at least. I'm going to be getting Gen 2 trunks as well. For me, this is a no-brainer. Number one metaverse in the world, owning limited edition, real estate, limited edition, items in it. It's just a matter of time, whether that's a year, 3, 4, or 5 years down the road. Again, my belief system, not financial advice. I believe these will be worth it. And I'm a holder to show that I put my money where my mouth is. All right, Brian, on to you, buddy.
All right. Well, I think you redeemed yourself here. I was feeling like maybe there was a backhanded insult there when you were saying experience beats intelligence. And you could be smart, but Brian will still beat you because he has experience. But then you turn it around to say that the 0.3 ETH giveaway was genius. So I feel redeemed. Yeah, so of course, really excited about the Gen 2 trunks, and what this idea was really all about here. There are so many benefits to having community involved in the project that and having a vested interest in the project that it sort of trumped the idea of trying to earn anything on the trunks. The beauty, the way that I envision this, and the reason why I was so excited about it, is this idea. Of course, we could do a mint for free, but if we were to do something like that, the trunks will all be scooped up by people that don't really understand Utherverse, that haven't been following the project, that are just looking to flip this thing for a profit. And the trunks contain such valuable assets. These these really spectacular wings. I mean, imagine going to a music festival with the, you see people walking around with the fairy wings and with, the gargoyle wings and with horns and halos and all kinds of particle effects that are all fun, unique clothing. And then, of course, the virtual property, which is really, just the top of the top of the virtual property in Metaverse for all time. So we didn't want to give these away. And I was thinking about this idea of found money. You put on a jacket from last season and you find $100 in the pocket. You don't feel like, well, I had that $100 before, and so you feel like, wow, this is found money. When we open the Metaverse live to production, so of course we're going into closed beta on September 26th. I'll talk a little bit about that because I'm really excited. I mean, oh my God, right? But when we go live into production, this thing is going to be open to the world, and immediately there's going to be all kinds of opportunities there for people that are doing clothing design, or people that are doing, deco, meaning like they assemble, they'll furnish your apartment, they'll deck out the apartment, they'll deck out businesses and all of these types of things. There's so much commerce that happens. And if we've got a bunch of people that come in and it's true they've spent 0.3 ETH now, but months later, you open the trunk and give people 0.3 ETH. We've got our token there. There's all kinds of opportunity for commerce. A lot of this money is going to go into the economy, and it's going to benefit all the businesses. It's going to benefit all of the people in the economy. So it's a huge economic stimulus package that happens when the trunks open. And for those reasons, I look at this and I say, yes, this gets a community behind us. I mean, Nexus has been wonderful support, and Blockchain Alliance, wonderful support for, what we've been doing. Our community, gives everybody vested interest, and it gives them a reason to be following the project closely, promoting the project. And then when we open, it gives everybody this, massive stimulus package that just is going to kick everything off into an even higher gear. So for all of those reasons, I thought, got to run this by Peter. Let's see if we can make this happen. And here we are. But the Gen 1 trunks have been really enhanced too. So I don't want to discount that. Those are the OG trunks. I mean, these are going to be the rarest of rare collector's items. And of course, they've got really cool bling that's been added to those that you'll be walking around with the Gen 1 necklace or such. So that's also very cool. So I guess that's, the overview of the trunk. I really would recommend people go to the page because it gives a lot more detail about what's in each trunk. But they're essentially free, it's
Corey, can you pull up the page so everybody can see that, please, buddy?
I sure can.
All right, excellent. Go ahead, Brian. I just wanted him to pull up the page for you.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I mean, don't know how well it all streams, but it's better than not having the page. It's better than your car.
I'm actually on the road, buddy, to go meet Brian Quinn right now.
Oh, fantastic, Sedona. Yeah. So. Of course, the other thing that I was saying I'm super excited about. I mean, we've got a bunch of stuff. The calendar is starting to get very packed. We're going to start giving regular updates to everybody now because there's really stuff to update people on. But closed beta is really shaping up. I'm very excited about September 26th. And then the first 2 weeks where we're going to be hosting a whole variety of events really to test. And then we're going to be fixing whatever bugs and issues come up, re-releasing an upgrade and a patch. And then there's a whole calendar of high-end events that are going to start happening mid-October that will include all kinds of movie screenings and meet and greet with the stars of the film and the producers of the films. We've got musicians, we've got comedians, we've got DJs, and really things are going to kick into gear between mid-October and the end of the year.
Which page am I on, Brian?
So that's the original page.
These are the Gen 1s.
So if you go to the home page here, just click on the Uthervesre icon at the upper left here at the very top. There you can see the Gen 2 trunks here, and this is really what's going on.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Right. So this gives you the rundown. So you can see the URL at the top there. And there's a video.
On the whitelist. You get on the whitelist right here.
Right, exactly. Definitely want to get on the whitelist and pick up as many of these as you can grab.
Oh, this is exciting.
That's cool.
That's really cool.
Beautiful page.
Thank you. List where you can see what is available in the trunks there, and then this video really highlights some of the unique assets. Here you see the guy with the horns, the halo, Obviously, the trunks have Ethereum. Those are the shoes that leave imprints.
Wow.
That's cool.
Yeah, so the glowing jackets. So hard to tell in the video. These are some of my favorites. The wings for music festivals and various parties. And I mean, it goes without saying, but comparing this to like the Sandbox or Decentraland, I mean,
Enough said.
yeah, you can see why I'm excited.
That's incredible. I want that Bitcoin jacket.
Yeah, the Bitcoin jacket, that's my favorite. Of course, for Peter, we're going to do an Uthercoin jacket.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what's going to put on mine. So
Nice.
But the Bitcoin jacket, I love that one. That's going to be a conversation starter, throwing off a bunch of Bitcoin everywhere you walk.
well, I think that's too. A lot of times you're like, well, how are people going to know I'm going to own these, right? How am I going to be able to advertise that the Bitcoin jacket? I mean, you're going to be able to walk around and it's doing it. And people are going to come up and go, dude, I want your jacket. I'll give you, whatever, 10 ETH or whatever for it, right? Well, I want it. So it's almost like these things are advertising themselves, right? Not just putting them in a marketplace, but somebody can see it.
I mean, and that, I think, Peter, is where, it all circles back around to what you talk about, and which I obviously agree with, that Metaverse is the center of Web3. I mean, if we think about what I imagine is really going to happen, what I believe is really going to happen here, experience, right? We've had 50 million people use our second generation software. I mean, when we open the doors to this thing, and it's true, in closed beta, we're only allowing a couple thousand people in because we really want to test, and I don't want to overhype it. There's going to be some glitches. I don't think they're going to be material because this team is very meticulous that I've got. So, I think the glitches are not going to be noticeable to any but a handful of us. But, I want to have it perfected. But by the time we open, I expect there's going to be hundreds of thousands of people at least every month that are going to be joining. But it's really, if I had to say what I really think is going to happen, I think there's going to be millions of people a month that are going to be joining this thing. I mean, you just look at how many people attended a concert in Fortnite. Yeah, 20 million people, right? We're going to be able to, and Fortnite is, I mean, it's garbage compared to what we've got here. So, we could be having concerts for hundreds of millions of people. And there's going to be a few hundred, maybe, 100 Bitcoin jackets. You put this thing on, people are going to say, I've been using this software for a year. I haven't ever seen this. Where the heck did you get that? Right? So it's not like you're going to be walking around with a few thousand people that also have trunks. It's going to be hundreds of millions of people. And there's a few hundred trunks out there, right? And that's where the demand is just like, where did you get this halo? Where did you get those horns or the wings? Well, you kind of needed to be in on this at the beginning, or else, I mean, you don't need to I guess that's the point. You don't need to advertise this, posting it up on, OpenSea or something and hoping that somebody's going to like the graphic. You're going to be walking around. It's a walking advertisement. And of course, I wouldn't sell it because it's such a conversation starter. You get to talk about, I was one of the first people mining Bitcoin. All right. Did you sell it at 10 cents or did you hold on to it?
Right.
Yeah. Hopefully you didn't sell it at 10 cents.
Yeah. So guys, one of the things that Brian was talking about is the events, driving people to it. I think most of what Decentraland and a lot of these other metaverses have done is they just thought, well, if we build it, other people will take the lead on the events and other people will build cool buildings and cool things. But that's not the case because most of the people who bought were speculators, and speculators aren't there to build anything. They're there to just make a return on what it is. So you end up with the majority of the community, the people that are there that are not doing anything that's valuable to the whole project. The way that Brian has structured this, and having Uthervesre take on the lead to line up the concerts, the movie showings, all of this stuff. That's one of the huge difference. That's the experience part, right? Because, Brian happens to have both the genius and the experience because he is a genius. But the experience part of it is,
I pressured you into saying that.
No. I didn't want anybody to think that I don't think you're a genius. That's why I'm here, right? That's why we put so much effort and energy into what's going on here, because it's going to take a genius to make all this stuff happen. So,
and it really is experience, because what we did with our second generation software and having millions and millions of live users that we're developing against, that's what has informed the whole architecture of this next generation. I mean, you learn from all of the plumbing and where did we architect ourselves into a corner and what code needed to happen in order to enable this. And what we did with the second generation is we followed the same sort of pattern, which is before we really open this up to anyone can build anything they want, we needed to know, are the tools that we're building useful? So we build the tools for ourselves, we use the tools ourselves, and then we release them to the public, and then we can iterate when the public has problems or difficulties or challenges. We can create the tutorials, we can have the classes, we run other academy, we teach people how to create clothing, how to do design work, how to add objects into the world, create animations, those types of things. But in addition, we're refining our tool set. So the first thing you need to do in a metaverse is to create a critical mass of users who then start to say, well, I could do this better. And of course, we want the users to do it better. We just want to be the platform. But ultimately, in order to know what to do, you've got to create the events. You've got to create the regions. You've got to create the shopping, the catalog system and all of the commerce plumbing and all of these, communication systems. And then what I like about the way that my business team operates is we've had entities in our second generation software that have competed directly with us, right? So we've got regions and we're hosting events and we're doing things like, catalog systems. And we've got people who come up and they start to build competing systems. And very often we hand the torch over. Yours is better now, so we're not really trying to compete with the community. We're trying to empower the community. And if you can handle these parts of the business, then we can focus on other things. So you could take that over and, ultimately have a thriving business. I think Peter might have gotten stuck here. At least the video is stuck. So I'll just answer some questions here. Credit card, absolutely. That was a really important feature, particularly for my existing community who hasn't embraced crypto. They're more like the general population, and so in order to allow our users to be able to get in on the trunks and not force them to educate, which is not that heavy a lift. They should all join Blockchain Alliance, and they would easily learn how to manage their crypto and have wallets and such. But in the interest of expediting things, we've got credit card capabilities. So, ultimately, when we say there's 0.3 ETH in the wallet, it's really the value of 0.3 ETH at the time of the mint is returned in the wallet. So if you spend a certain amount on a credit card, that's essentially the dollar amount that you're going to end up getting back when the trunk opens. So you're still not taking you're still not going to have the problem of really needing to embrace crypto. Although ultimately, in order to have the NFTs that we've got, you'll need a wallet, but that should be embedded in the client. So you won't really, we're trying to make this a very light footprint for anybody that's not, ready to jump in with both feet and understand Ethereum and cryptocurrency generally. We've made this pretty simple.
There is a
Well,
question.
I think, Brian, that's a good point. I think you guys can hear me again now.
Yep.
Yeah.
The metaverse is where I believe, so people have been trying to simplify, of course, security thought processes of how to get massive numbers of people into cryptocurrency. So that is the big challenge. How do you get 1 billion people? How do you get people that don't want to go figure out seed words and all that stuff? I believe the answer to that is the metaverse, right? That's what the tech,
I guess you're going through a
safe
pretty
enough
bad.
environments and things that can. You losing me again?
A little bit at the end there.
Corey can finish my thought. He knows what I was going to say.
Well, and you can too now because you're back.
All right,
Yeah.
awesome.
You made it.
So I believe metaverse is the way that massive numbers of people get ushered in, which is why I believe it's the center of Web3 and why, with Utherverse being the top in that category, why the opportunity is so tremendous here with what we're doing and our goal with it. So it's crazy, guys, when you sit down and you listen and look and see what is going on, that everyone in the world is not screaming Web3, 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 Metaverse, 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 because it's so clear. There's never been anything that there's been so much evidence of something that's coming and happening that I know of in my lifetime, right? I mean, you could say, oh, well, 2008, you knew real estate was going to go up, but who, did you really know or not, right? Did you know the crash? All of that stuff. But this is clear as can be that Web3 is happening. And, we're blessed enough to have come in contact with Utherverse, the clear winner in this space. I just know it. I know these events, all the stuff that's going to happen. I know one day we're going to sit down and go, there'll be a thing, on the news, just like there was with Amazon, #1 online shopping in the world, some story that some news person is doing. And it'll be, something like Utherverse, the true undefeated world champion of metaverses, the clear dominant leader in the space, and that is when you're going to be glad you have a Gen 1 trunk, a Gen 2 trunk. You're going to be glad that you were involved with Nexus and BA and that you have positioned yourself well in Web3. So again, my thought process, my belief system, but I'm willing to put my money and my time and my talent behind making sure that it happens.
The reason why I feel so confident, I mean, that I would literally spend 20 years of my life building this is, I mean, not only have we seen in our previous generations of software the value, but the efficiencies. When I look at this just from as strictly as an economist, the efficiencies and the efficiency gains, the productivity gains that happen from a metaverse are so unprecedented. Even the internet itself can't compete. Even mobile phones can't compete with the kinds of economies of scale that happen with a metaverse. And to anybody who doubts that the value, efficiencies always end up prevailing. I mean, you had people who doubted the automobile, but the efficiencies of the car over the horse and buggy, the efficiencies of the internet over telephones, in every case where you have real huge productivity gains and real huge value that gets added. And so people often ask, like, why metaverse? Why not just a website? And to do things like, a convention, which is probably my favorite use case. The economies of scale for a convention and hosting a trade show floor where you can have people from all over the world attend for free, basically. They don't need to fly out. They don't need a hotel. You don't need to construct and spend tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars on a trade show floor. You don't need to pull all your staff to be able to man your booths. I'm thinking like a consumer electronics show. You get 1,000 times as many attendees as you could host in a physical building. So those kind of economies of scale will always end up prevailing. And then the efficiencies that you get from having it done electronically, digitally. So, you can have things recorded so you don't have to remember what your conversation was. You can just go back. You could talk to your AI assistant and ask, what was this booth? Who was I talking to? What did we say? Here's a recording of it. Here's, what you guys decided you were going to do, and maybe write up a quick letter of intent or an agreement on it. Where I think other metaverse, I know many other metaverses, and we've had many other attempted competitors that have all failed. And I talk to different metaverse companies almost every week, who ultimately largely decide that they just want to work with us and they want to build their metaverse on our system. And a lot of times that's, you've got to give up all this money that you spent developing something that is not going to work, and just write it off as a loss and come on over with us. I just did a deal like that with a with a big metaverse startup, I want to say, where these other metaverses fail. There's so many reasons why a metaverse is going to fail, but the idea of what we were talking about earlier with Peter when he was on, that you can have, that we're building our own metaverse, and we're hosting our own events. But it's not just events. People often want to, talk about a metaverse in the context of, well, we're going to have a celebrity, we'll have Justin Bieber on and do a concert, and they don't plan for what happens before the concert, what happens after the concert. It's this idea of a persistent, always on world where there's always people, always things to do. The integration between the Web3 and the Web2 pieces is really key too, because you want to be able to have a social media component. You want to be able to have friends and be able to communicate outside of the metaverse on a Web2 platform, so that you can coordinate events, having an events calendar, and having an always on, always friends online, always things to do, so that you're not saying, I've got an hour, I'm bored, I want to do something. Well, there's no event going on. There's no concert going on. They have a concert once every 2 weeks. Those metaverses always end up failing. When we've got small clubs and coffee shops and art galleries and shopping centers and meeting rooms and podcasts, stuff that users can create, stuff that we create that's always on, karaoke, that creates this always on, like the web itself. You're never wondering if a website is going to be, if you're going to be able to find a website today, or you're going to check the internet and there's no websites on. So I guess just another kind of key benefit. And then, once we turn on this tool set, once we're out of closed beta, and users can decorate their apartments if you've got one, that's also, have friends over, get a TV in the apartment, be able to stream videos from YouTube to your party, your event, to cuddle in bed with somebody and watch a movie in the apartment, to be able to connect to these people who you're friends with from all over the planet, and be able to have avatars that interact. All of these things, I suppose it's all in the detail. And this is where having speculators come in because they believe that land is going to be valuable and other people are going to build, that's never worked. All of those metaverses have always failed, and we've seen that historically. And when I say metaverse, really, I'm thinking back even before Decentraland, to things like, there used to be a metaverse competitor called there.com, they failed because they failed to manage the economy, in my opinion, but they blew up. You had Google Lively blew up because they didn't grasp this concept of always on critical mass. So they would have small regions, but you could never really know where there were people to meet, people to interact with. Without that, you pop into a metaverse and you're there by yourself. You run around to a few places and there's nothing happening, and you're going to leave. And so Google blew through billions of dollars on Lively, and that failed. And it really takes all of these, an understanding of how all of this works, how all of this interacts, and that's what we're, the ultimate, fourth generation software now, the Xeon browser software that we're coming out with encompasses all of this experience and all of this value for Metaverse, and without the requirement that anybody have a wallet, because you don't, it really is a revolution in Web3 in that respect, where you're not using these pieces. I like to talk about the early days of the internet, where before web browsers, where everything was its own application and you had to download every piece in order to be able to interact with any piece of the internet. So you have Usenet, and you have email and bulletin boards and FTP and all of these pieces that you need to download separately. And when the browser comes along and it snaps it all together, it's all in one place and you can access everything through a single portal. This is where the web really comes to life and comes into its own. It's the same thing with Web3. If you have to download a wallet and you have to figure out seed phrases, and then where do you go to buy tokens, and how do you deal with Uniswap, and how do you deal with PancakeSwap, and where is this token located? If we get rid of all of that nuisance, or complexity is a better word. If we can get rid of all of that complexity and just have an embedded sort of e-commerce that everybody's familiar with, you can come on with a credit card, you come on with Bitcoin, you come on with any of these top cryptocurrencies, and all of a sudden your account is funded, and you can cash out that way too. You don't need to know all of these intricacies. All you need to know is, I launched my web browser, and there's my bank account, basically my Web3 account, with all my NFTs and with all my various types of currency, and ultimately, bam, that's going to be the on-ramp for Web3. And that is another reason, Peter, why I think Metaverse is the center of Web3, because it simplifies, it creates an on-ramp where everybody's going to be using Metaverse anyway. And you really do need to have a currency. I mean, you just need to have some commerce component.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, guys, we are on the right path here. This is the path to I don't want to say domination, but to be able to create massive amounts of digital wealth for people throughout the world, and just make it a better place than when we got here. So I'm excited to be involved and be a part of it. Any more questions, guys?
We've got two questions in the Q&A. One is the real estate in the Gen 1 the same or better as the Gen 2 trunks?
Yeah, so the real estate, it's an improvement over the Gen 2 trunks, but it's the same. So in each of these trunks, there's rarities of real estate. So we've got a penthouse apartment, which is the most rare, the sub penthouse, the luxury, and
upscale.
Thank you. In the Gen 1 trunks, you have no chance of getting the upscale apartment. So the odds have been upgraded. So you're either going to get luxury, sub penthouse, or penthouse. But if you were to get the penthouse in Gen 1 or Gen 2, those are the same. They all exist in the same building, which is the central building of Uthervesre, Metaverse, overlooking the concert stage, overlooking the plaza, the main plaza. And this building is going to have all kinds of events for trunk holders, basically, and their guests. So, it's a managed condo building, basically, and it's going to be an elite group of people that, are the prestigious condo owners in the Uthervesre Metaverse. But ultimately, if you were to get whichever apartment, whichever condo you end up getting, it's in the same building. It's gonna basically be the same, regardless of whether you got it in a Gen 1 trunk or a Gen 2 trunk. The Gen 1 trunks just have better odds of getting, the higher tier apartments.
Great
Yeah,
question.
and there's no bottom tier apartment, right? Which there's no bottom tier, right? It's not like
No.
you're getting in the slums. There's just no, there's one of the levels that's available and 2 is not available in 1. So you're going to get a bet, your chances of not getting the lowest level in Gen 1 is impossible, right? You can't get it if you have the Gen 1 truck versus the Gen 2
Right,
truck.
but the lowest levels are still pretty boss apartments.
To have any apartment in this area, location. I know a friend of ours that they have a person who owns some real estate in Times Square, and every single New Year's they rent it out and have a big event there, and they make a fortune, right, off of just because of where it's located, where it's at. I can see the same thing happening here in Utherverse when there's 10 million, 20, 30 million people that want to show up for the Utherverse New Year's party with special guests who knows who, that people would be like, hey, we want to hang out on a porch and not be down in the crowd, and we want to sit on the one of the patios of my condo and hang out, and that's going to be a pretty cool experience to have. So
another question, detail on that one is, so if you have Gen 1 and Gen 2 trunks, do you get 2 apartments? Asked Marty.
One for every, you have 50 FNFTs, you're getting 50 apartments.
Wow.
Correct.
You could be like, maybe if you get lucky enough, trade around, you get the whole floor.
That's actually a good idea.
That is a great idea. I'll take floor 13, please. So we have another question. Kenny asks, how many years before we can enter the Utherverse to preview exotic beaches and Airbnbs around the world from our couch?
One of the use cases that I was talking to Carnival Cruises at one point, this is a while back, about having a pre-cruise in the metaverse. And I think this idea is absolutely going to catch on. I don't think that we're going to end up being the ones who do it. I think that this is going to be a business that if it doesn't happen by the time that we're ready to do it, we'll do it. But it's going to happen before then, where, you replicate out the Airbnb, because this really falls into the real estate component, I forget what we called it, in any event, where you're replicating out the Airbnb, you're replicating out the houses and condos, you're replicating out resorts. And before people book, or after they book, but before they go on, I guess I'll use cruise as an example because it can be very confusing. You get on the ship and you don't know where your cabin is. You don't know what floor it's on. You don't know how to get from your cabin to, the dining places or the event places. So you replicate out the entire ship. You have a pre-cruise event, and people can start to go to, see their actual cabin, so that I know exactly how to get there. I know, visually, how do I go from there to these other various high interest points on the ship. And it's the same thing. Airbnb, before you rent it, you walk through and you make sure, and you can see it on the map and see what it's all about before you actually rent it. With real estate, I mean, this is one of my favorite use cases too, because we do it ourselves. I've had my apartment created as a virtual apartment, so that I would know where I want my furniture before they move it. What upgrades I want to make to it. So, demolishing walls or, moving things around. We've done this with our offices. So we know where we're going to position the various teams, so that, it's optimized. Worst thing I found is when you move into an office space and you have an idea of where you want to put everybody, and then you realize geez, we put the developers next to the customer support where the phones are always ringing and the developers like, we can't work with all this noise. So you do these commercial real estate things in advance, and then you know what walls to blow out, what private offices to create. And once you've done all of that, you just show it to the designer. But yeah, all of those things. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing, I mean, one of the things that I would love to see is some of these resorts. If I'm flying out to Hawaii, and I'm heading to the resort, let me have it in the metaverse so I can be in my headset on the plane for 10 minutes and just zen out at the beach, even before I land. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for all of those use cases. All of that stuff is going to end up happening in the metaverse.
Right. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
If you use a credit card to purchase a Gen 2 trunk, do you get the 0.3 ETH back in dollars or ETH? Is it?
So you're going to end up getting it back in Ethereum, but let's say I have a whole customer support team. So if you wanted to get it back in dollars, I'm sure that what would end up happening is we would end up not forcing you to learn how to use Ethereum. We could take the Ethereum value and just cash it out for you and credit you with the dollars. We're going to try to be as flexible as possible. I suspect that a lot of people are going to want to cash it out into our native token.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we're going to facilitate that. And there are some things that we're discussing, which I'm not able to talk about yet, because I don't want to promise things that we're not set on at this early stage. But there's going to be some other features there that you're going to find to be very attractive, let's say.
Nice. It's just us. You can talk about it.
Yeah, right. I don't want to say something and then not have it actually happen or happen at a different level. But
understandable.
It's always nice to have stuff to look forward to, little surprises and Easter eggs and such.
That's right. There's going to be a lot of that. I have a feeling.
Oh, yes.
Well, great. I think that's all on my questions side of things. Anybody else have any questions? Peter, anything else from you, buddy? I think we might have lost Peter. But I think that's it. Thank you so much. Awesome. Any leaving words, parting words from you?
It's always such a joy to be able to talk about my favorite things. I'm very excited about the Gen 2 trunks. I think everybody's going to be thrilled ultimately with what they end up with as a result of that. And I'm really excited. I hope everybody who can get a Gen 2 trunk then can sign up for the whitelist. And as soon as we, we're going to be letting people in groups to be able to experience the closed beta. But be sure to get into the closed beta around October 15, when we really start this calendar of events. We've got our first film festival that's going to start to happen on the date is either October 15 or 16, 14, 15 or 16. It hasn't been set yet, but that whole series of film festivals, comedy shorts, musicians and comedians and all of that going to be really exciting. So I hope we get to see everybody there. And of course, I'll be spending a lot of time in the closed beta. So if you want to chat with me, you'll probably find me in the transport center most of the time.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think the more the community catches what you have to say, Brian, and the more things we do around Utherverse, and it just gets more mind-blowing, mind-bending as we go. And it's just absolutely, the word grateful comes to mind, having a partnership with you guys and just seeing your vision and your excitement about as we get closer to the closed beta. And we just know what we have our hands on here, and this is just absolutely enormous. So we appreciate you. We're grateful, and thank you for taking the time to join us today. And you absolutely get on the white list, guys, and get ready for Gen 2 trunks. It's coming right around the corner. So thanks again,
Yep.
Brian. We really
You
appreciate it.
bet. Thanks,
All
Corey.
right.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks, everybody. And all of you with your questions and all of the support. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Have a